Hi, this is Andrew for Geek News Central. Today I'm really excited because on the desk in front of me we have the brand new OnePlus 8 Pro. It's so new it's still in its shrink wrap. I'm a big fan of the OnePlus series. Started off with the OnePlus One and I'm currently using the 6T as my daily driver. So I'm really interested to see what features OnePlus have brought to their flagship killer. Now this isn't the only phone they're releasing. There is, if you like, a standard OnePlus 8. And if you want to see my review of that one, check out the review video in my channel. So let's get the box open. As I say, it's still in the shrink wrap. This one is the top of the range OnePlus Pro, as it were. So OnePlus 8 Pro. It's the version that comes with 12 gigs of RAM and the 256 gigs of storage. It comes in glacial green. There is also an onyx black one, I think it's called, which has the lower RAM and ROM or storage specification. I think it's 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. So let's get it open. This yellow post-it note is just to cover up the IMEI and other sensitive information. So let's see if we can get that. Oh, yep. OnePlus have even made it easy to get into. There's a little pull tab at the top that says, for the avoidance of doubt, open. So that's great. No need to faff around with scissors or anything like that. As you might also notice on the desk, OnePlus very kindly sent through a couple of cases. Some of these might give a bit of a hint as to what the cameras are going to be like. So let's get into the box, shall we? Okay, so it's just slightly, you can just see it sliding out, and you can see it's the OnePlus 8 Pro. And here we have it. Let's put that there. There's always that slight hint of nervousness. You don't want it to just go plop on the front. Oh, well, maybe if I use the little tab here at the bottom, it would make your life a bit easier. There we go. Oh, that's it. Okay. So this is actually the front of the phone. Let's just put that onto one side. So as well in the box you get the charger. This is also a UK spec. And then, oh, you've got a clear, okay, there's kind of like a clear bumper case. You've got the charger cable, which is, as usual, is USB-C. They've moved away from their traditional, I don't know, the one that OnePlus had a cable that it didn't matter which way up you put it in, it always worked. So they moved away from that. That's a pity. And as you can see, we've got a fairly beefy the UK version of the charger. We'll talk a bit more about the Warp Charge in a minute. They've made some improvements there, which are pretty impressive. Okay, so what we've got here is it's the OnePlus 8 Pro. Just going to unpeel it here, and I think you can probably see there's a hint here. The new phone comes with wireless charging. So what we have here is the OnePlus 8 Pro. As we all know, OnePlus really go all out on their displays, and what we have here is a 6.78-inch QHD plus fluid display. As you can see, it is pretty big and pretty nice, and it does have these curved beveled or whatever you would call it edges. And as we know from the previous versions, they have this, in terms of this really high frame rate on the phones. The previous versions came at 90 Hertz. We now have, on the 8 Pro, we have 120 Hertz. Now, obviously that's not going to come across on the camera here, but you know, once we get going and once I get into the review, hopefully I'll get a chance to try some videos, some gameplay, and really see what that can deliver. So it's going to get me to go through the startup for Android. We'll just actually review all the buttons and switches and things like that before we look at that in any detail. So as you notice here as well, for the first time here, we have I think we have a hole punch camera up here rather than, if you remember, the 7 T Pro, I think it was, had the pop-up camera that came up from the top. So that's gone, and we now have this very, what I think is, looks to me like a fairly discreet front-facing camera. If we continue to talk about the cameras around the back, we actually have 4 cameras here. There is a bit of a protrusion here, you can kind of see here, and I guess that's where it's going to become, I mean, pretty much essential to be wearing some kind of case on the back, so that when you put the phone down on the table, you're not constantly scratching away at this. So I think that's something to bear in mind, whether you prefer a bumper case, or, you know, we'll say we've got a selection of them here, the transparent one comes in the box, or whether you get a nice leather case, or whatever, actually, whatever your budget can afford, whatever your budget can afford in terms of a case. So as you can see, there are actually these 4 cameras on the back. There is this, if you like, this one here is a 3x telephoto lens, if I remember correctly. We've got an ultra wide 48 megapixel camera up here. We've got a 48 megapixel main camera here, and we've got this what they're calling a color filter camera, which it's a bit hard to explain because I haven't actually tried it, but I'm given to understand that it kind of almost does like, you know, Instagram filters and things like that, you know, as part of the camera. So I'll be interested to check that out and really see what that's like. On this part of the phone, we've got the usual, I'm going to guess it's the volume slider. Yep, just where it usually is on the OnePlus phones. And if I'm guessing around here, you're going to have the classic, if you like, speaker slider, so you can mute the phone when you don't. Usually there's 3 modes here. You can move it into a vibrate only mode, and then you've got your silent mode right up at the top, and then at the bottom you've got your usual ring. Power buttons on the side as usual. Let's see what else we got. Really a very nice and clean top to it. There's no features there at all. I'm going to guess that that's some kind of microphone at the top, and round the bottom we've got the usual USB-C port. I'm going to guess another speaker stroke microphone, and then we've got the SIM tray here. As usual with the OnePlus phones, it's a dual SIM tray, and if I can find the little ejection thing, I'll pop it out to show you. And really that's pretty much it. It's very plain, very sleek, and the color is really good. I like that. Now, on the subject of colours, there is, I say, this green background, whose name I've just forgotten. I should just look at the back of the box again. It is glacial green. There is an onyx black, and there is a third colour, but it's not going to be available in the UK. It's that, you might have seen some of the leaks, there's kind of like a chroma colour to it that has different reflective, I know, whatever. Look up the leak. But I have to say, I do like this green. It's very nice. As I say, the other feature is that it does come with, there is now wireless charging. You can't really see any indication of that. I haven't actually got the official OnePlus charger. It's one of the ones where you can kind of rest it on your desk backwards. I do have a wireless charger back from the days of the Google Nexus 4, so I don't know whether that'll work or not, but we'll get it out and see how it goes. Okay, so we've had a look around the outside of the OnePlus 8 Pro, and it is pretty nice. What we can talk about a little bit about now is what's under the hood, and we've got the Qualcomm 865 processor. As I said, we've got the 12 gigs of RAM in this one, but the RAM is the newer LPDDR5 RAM, which should give about a 30% performance improvement whilst using around 20% less energy or less battery. So that's always a bonus. In terms of the battery, it has the biggest battery of any of OnePlus phones to date, with a fairly beefy 4,510 milliamp hours somewhere in here. And finally, we've also got Dolby Atmos stereo speakers, which should mean that if you're watching videos or playing games on the phone, you really get a good immersive and clear experience. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of get this logged in, started off, and that'll give us a bit more to talk to. So I'll just be back in a sec once we've gone through all the passwords and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I've logged onto the phone, and now it's busily copying all the apps and settings and configuration down from Google onto the phone. So while it's doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the connectivity, a little bit about power and charging. But first I just want to show you this. They've got some really nice backgrounds, and you see if I swipe between the different home screens, do you see how the background kind of subtly changes? I'm pretty impressed with that. Doesn't take much to impress me, but let's just go with it. So in terms of if you like mobile phone connectivity, the OnePlus 8 series all come with 5G. OnePlus is all in on 5G. Now for me, out in the burbs, I don't yet have 5G, and I'm sure a lot of people will be in that situation. You get 5G in the city centres, but it's really quite limited in its range. Now that's going to change over time. So the good news is that OnePlus has you future-proofed from the very start. In terms of Wi-Fi, it supports Wi-Fi 6, which will allow for network speeds of up to 9.6 gigabits per second. Now, obviously that's only going to happen if you have a router or Wi-Fi in your home or in your office that supports the new Wi-Fi 6 initiative. But again, you know, you're future-proofed. As soon as it comes in, you'll be able to take advantage of those higher speeds. Okay, so whilst the phone is downloading all the apps and settings from Google, let's talk a little bit about charging and batteries. So the OnePlus 8 Pro comes with two firsts. The first, if you like, I've already mentioned. It has the largest battery of any OnePlus phone so far, with a fairly beefy 4,510 milliampere hours. The second first is that it has wireless charging. Now, if we're being honest, this is something that the OnePlus community has been crying out for, and it has been something which kind of OnePlus needed in order to be able to compete with the flagship phones. Without naming any competitors, you know, wireless charging is fairly widespread, particularly in the high-end phones. So it's great to see that, and as I mentioned earlier, we'll try a little bit of wireless charging in a minute. Now, OnePlus's fast charge, quick charge, whatever you want to call it, has always been branded Warp, and that continues. This is the, if you like, the Warp Charge 30. The 30 refers to the peak charging power, which is 30 watts. And that's actually sustainable on both, not sustainable, you know, it's deliverable, shall we say, on both the wired cable and also the wireless, which is pretty impressive. So if you do have it cabled, you can actually charge from 1% to 50% in just 23 minutes. If you are using the wireless charging, that 1 to 50% time falls just to half an hour. So in 30 minutes on wireless charging, you will still go from 1% to 50%. Now that's pretty impressive. That means there's relatively little difference between the wireless and the wired charging. So I'm looking forward to trying that out in practice. Obviously that high-speed wireless charging is only possible with OnePlus's, if you like, branded gear. If you just have an ordinary wireless charger with the likes of QI, it'll still work, but you just won't get the full advantage of the high speed. So this is a wireless battery pack that I've had for years, and I think it originally used it with a OnePlus, not with OnePlus, with a Google Nexus 4. But what we're going to do is we're going to put it on and see whether it picks it up, and it does. I don't know if you can just about see. There's the little charging thing there, and you obviously heard the little bleep. So if you have some existing wireless gear, you should find that it works perfectly with the OnePlus 8 Pro, albeit just at a slightly slower rate. So that's great. You can potentially save a few pennies. Okay, so the phone's continuing to download the apps and settings. We've just been talking about the wireless connectivity and also the battery and the charging. I've just discovered a pretty neat new feature. What happens when I turn off the phone and then turn it back on again? You'll be looking at the dynamic background here. See how it swirls in from the side? I think that's great. There's a couple of these dynamic backgrounds pre-installed on the phone, so you'll have a lot of fun finding the one that works for you. Whilst it's continuing to do the download, let's just talk about some of the, if you like, the physical characteristics of the phone. And with another first here, so the OnePlus 8 Pro comes with the IP68 rating, which means that it should be impervious to dust, but more importantly, it'll survive a little dunking in water. It should survive at about, it's 1.5 meters of fresh water for up to 30 minutes. So that's the IP68. You know, you're probably not going to be taking this diving or in the swimming pool, but you know, if you happen to lean over and it plops into the toilet, hopefully you'll be able to fish it out without too much damage being done. Oh, but not without too much, without any damage being done. Okay, so whilst that's continuing to do that, let's take a look at some of the cases here. So in the box, you get this, if you like, a clear bumper. Comes with the Never Settle moniker. I think you can just about see that. It's always good to have something just out of the box to get you going until you find what you know, really what your preference is. Then we've probably got these bumper cases. So as I say, OnePlus kindly provided these. I am actually just going to have to get a pair of scissors to get these open. That's it. Okay, so we've got a nice carbon fiber effect here. I think there's always been a carbon fiber case in the product range ever since well, I suppose the original OnePlus One came with a kind of what they called sandstone pack. It's quite a nice feel. Now, none of the cases are going to be a patch on the really the lovely colour of the back. I really do like that colour. So this case has a slightly different texture to it. It really harks back to almost to the sandstone of the original OnePlus One. It's got this much more textured feel to it, which will hopefully stop you from dropping it. Because I wouldn't have said this is a slippy foam, but it's still a very smooth foam on the back. Although I suspect not too many, shall we say, teens will be buying an 8 Pro. I can kind of see that might be more appealing to them than the carbon fiber back. So yeah, it's good. You're not going to be, not going to be dropping that in a hurry. And one other thing we didn't really get a chance to mention is that there's some bump in the box here. So it's all, pull this one out the back, bottom. There we go. Oh, more stuff. Yeah, I think that's it all. So you've got a bit of information on the SAR values. You've got some safety information. Oh, you got some I like stickers. So get a selection of stickers in the box here. I don't think they'll be going back to OnePlus. An invitation letter. I have to see what's in here. Okay, so it's just like a welcome letter from Pete Lau, I think he's the CEO of the company. Just really saying 6 years ago, started OnePlus One, or OnePlus, because we weren't satisfied with the status quo, that's for sure. A bit of information on EU contact, don't know what that's about. Anyway, quick start guide, and I'm pretty sure one of these things, I thought there was something about, there it is. So it was right at the very bottom. There's the tray ejector. So let's just have a quick look at that. I'm going to have to take this back out of the case. It's always the way, isn't it? If you remember, I said it can take 2 SIMs, which can be handy. Regrettably, it doesn't take a SIM and or a memory card. But frankly, with 256 gigs of memory, who really needs a SIM, the extra space from a memory card? Maybe I said SIM card, I don't know. So it looks like it takes one on, if you can see that, it takes one on each side. It's kind of clever, keeps the space down. Okay, so that's it for now. Continues to do work. I'm actually going to do, I can see it's we're looking to do a little upgrade there. So I'll get that done and take it from there. Back soon. OnePlus makes some pretty good claims for its Warp Charge 30 technology. It reckons it should be able to increase the battery by 50% in about 23 minutes. So we're going to actually give that a go. If you can see here, the battery is at 8%, and hopefully you can just see the time there is at 13:25. So when it clicks over to 13:26, I'm going to plug the cable in, and then we will leave it for a little time and then come back in about 20 or so minutes and see how much it has charged from that 8%. So right, let's go. There's 13:26. Let's plug it in, and we'll leave it to do its thing. Okay, so I will be back in about 20 minutes. Okay, so we're back with the OnePlus 8 Pro, and if you remember, we put this on and it's just tipped over to 13:49. We've got 56% on the battery now. I think we started off at 8% 23 minutes ago, so it's really not far off what OnePlus are calling a 50% charge in 23 minutes. So I've actually noticed that this ticks up pretty quickly, so you might even find before the 49, there's 57, and see if we can get it to go to 58% before it ticks over to actually 10 to 2. It might just make it. So come on, we're rooting for you here, OnePlus 8 Pro. Come on. There you have it, 58%. Okay, it's probably a few seconds more than the pure 23 minutes, but I still think there's 10 to 2 now. That is, in fact, pretty impressive. So that's the battery charging. That's the Warp 30 technology. And just to add to that, I mean, I'm just giving the charger itself a wee touch there. It's not excessively hot by any stretch of the imagination, and just feeling around the back of the phone. I mean, yes, it's warm, but it's no one's going to be saying, "Oh, it's going to go on fire," or anything like that. I think that's pretty impressive. You genuinely do get 50% charge there in a relatively short period of time, 23, 24 minutes. There it's over to 59%. Very impressive. Okay, well, we'll back to the review shortly. Thanks very much. One other little thing that I've noticed is that on the lock screen display here, it actually shows you that it's warp charging here, so you know you've got a good connection. Okay, so look, we're back with our phone. You can see here that we've been at this now for just over an hour. It's 14:26, and you can see that the battery has reached 96% in an hour. So we started off at 8%, so if my maths is right, that means we've had an 88% charge in the last hour. And as you can see here, it says there's only a few minutes left until fully charged. I think that's pretty impressive to get nearly a full charge in an hour, and you know, it means that with the Warp Charge 30, you know, you're not going to have to leave your phone plugged in for long to get that full charge. Whilst we're talking about technology and the battery technology in particular, the OnePlus 8 Pro comes with this optimized charging, and what that means is that it learns rather from your working patterns in order to make sure that the phone is charged to 100% when you need it. We've learned as a community over time that lithium-ion batteries aren't, you know, it's not best for their longevity to keep them charged at 100% all the time. So what the phone tries to do is it tries to learn from your work patterns, and instead of charging as soon as you put the phone into a dock or a charging cradle, it'll say, well, look, it's night time now. I don't need to start charging until, say, 6 o'clock if I'm not going to be using the phone until 7 o'clock. I've got that whole hour to charge up to the 100%, and the phone will be ready for when you need it. You can override it if you know that you need the phone, for the sake of argument, you're getting a late flight and you need the phone to be fully charged at 2 in the morning, you can override that. Apologies if you can hear lawnmowers in the background. It's a lovely sunny day here, and everyone's out in their gardens. Anyway, that's the battery side of the OnePlus 8 Pro. It's pretty impressed. I mean, other things you can just spot here is you've got reverse charge. So if there's a feature in QI that you can actually charge other devices wirelessly from the phone. So if your if your phone's fully charged and you want to give your friend a bit of a boost, you can use the 8 Pro as a charger for the other phone that needs charged. And you've also got what's called a bedtime mode. So when you put that on a wireless charger, it doesn't beep away as it charges. That's a nice feature, because I used to have a phone that was, sometimes you get this business where the phone's not perfectly set on the wireless charger, and it kind of beeps when it starts charging, and then it kind of moves away a wee bit, and then it beeps again when it starts charging again. That can be really annoying. Now, I haven't got a wireless charger ready to test that happens, but just based on experience, I'm glad to see that. Okay, I think that's wireless charging covered. Oh no, that is charging covered now. Back soon. Hi, this is Andrew for Geek News Central, and this is our wrap-up review for the OnePlus 8 Pro. I've had this now for a little bit over 10 days, I think it is, and I've been trying to use it as much as I can, and it is a lovely phone. There is just so much going for it. Its looks are stunning. I mean, I really love the glass back. Obviously, it's perhaps a little bit fragile. We'll talk about cases in a minute, but it really has a lovely colour, which changes depending on how the light catches it. The performance is great. It's got the super fast, it's got the fast Snapdragon 865 in it. It's got oodles of memory. The screen is just lovely, and there's just so many pixels in there. You can't see the dots, as they say. The charging works really well, and Oxygen OS is just it's just a nice skin, if you like, on Android, and OnePlus have really just done the minimum to get the best from it. So let's just take a look at that in a bit more detail. So as I say, it's got the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865. Now, I have to say there's one slight quirk that I just need to bring to people's attention, and that is that the 8 seems to be faster than the 8 Pro, according to Geekbench 5. So if I actually just look at the history of this, you can see that I've run a number of benchmarks over the past few days, and you can kind of see that the scores for the single core all come in at between 891 and 901, and then the multi-cores are all around, if you like, triple three or quadruple three, 3337, 3324, or there's a 3293 there, that's possibly the highest one, and there's a 3290 there. Okay. Now I happen to have, as they say from one earlier, here is the 8 Pro, and if you can kind of see, I'll just bring this on so you can see them both at the same time. See, by comparison, and I ran all these benchmarks, most of the benchmarks at roughly similar times, you can see that the single core here for the 8 is over 900, 915, 915, 917, 912. Now these aren't big numbers, but there is this rather strange performance boost over the 8. Now I've reached out to OnePlus to try and find out what the story is there, but no one's come back to me yet on that. And you can see that the same thing persists with the multi-cores. We just have these slightly higher scores into the kind of like the 3361, 3411 there. So there's just that wee bit of the boost. But look, I thought I'd bring that to get to people's attention. Really, on a day-to-day basis, it's going to make no difference whatsoever. Everything runs, as they say, buttery smooth in here. And if we just look at even just scrolling up and down, you get this fantastic scrolling backwards and forwards. And you can kind of see I've been playing a few games here. I'll try and insert some of those into the video in just a minute. I shall pause and let them play now. Okay, so this is Galaxy on Fire. It's a flight sim. It runs really well on the 8 Pro. And you can see flying around, lots of, no doubt, baddies to shoot at. Where are some of my baddies? There you go. Oh. But I think everything renders and flies pretty well. Anyway, you get the idea. Okay, so this is Dogs of War. It's a kind of wartime flight simulator. Give you an idea of some of the capabilities of the 8 Pro as I fly over a harbour somewhere. and try not to get shot down. Anyway, as you can see, it's pretty smooth, flying along, and yeah, not too bad at all. But look at that, so I'm not, you can avoid my terrible flying. I'm inevitably going to crash into something. There you go. So you get the idea. Okay, so you've seen a couple of games there. I think we looked at Galaxy on Fire and looked at War Dogs. Everything is beautifully smooth, and there's just some really nice effects here. I mean, I think I've pointed out the dynamic background. You get that swirl coming in, and it, you know, as you move backwards and forwards, it morphs as well. So it's a really nice effect. I mean, the display is lovely. Just to refresh people's memories, and let me just look that up as well. You know, this is a, where has it gone? So we're about 6.78 inches from corner to corner, and it's got a resolution of 3,168 pixels by 1,440. So it's 513 ppi, which means really, no matter how close you look in with your eyes, you just cannot see the dots. Well, I mean, yes, you can if you look in really, really close, but on a day-to-day basis, you might as well be looking at a bit of paper. I mean, I can remember, you know, 300 dpi, you know, that was high resolution. Then it was 600 dpi, and we're at 500 dpi here, and it is really like looking at a bit of paper. The colours are, as I say, the colours are rich. Watching stuff on Netflix looks great. Yes, it has a very high brightness and has a good, you know, supports the sRGB and the display P3. So this is I have to admit, this is possibly one of the best screens that I've ever actually seen. So it's pretty impressive. And that's partly the quality of the screen. It's partly the 120 hertz display. It's really, I say, it's really good. What else is there to say? I mean, the camera, if we talk about the camera for a bit, I mean, if you look at my review on Geek News Central, you'll see photographs taken with the different cameras and how they change things, as it were. But I mean, for me, the color resolution was great. You know, the colors were, the color reproduction was great. You know, what you actually saw on the screen, or once you transferred it to your PC, was a very good representation of what was out there in the field, as it were. So that 48 megapixel back camera, really, I think it's a pretty strong camera. You've also got the telephoto one. Which one? It's the one up here. I think I've got that right. No, the telephoto, that was the telephoto one there, sorry. The one at the top here is the ultra wide camera, so you get that lovely wraparound view, and then you've got the fancy color filter camera at the bottom that allows you to kind of do some of those artistic effects. All honesty, I'm not sure how much I'm going to use that, but certainly the telephoto and also the ultra wide looked impressive. And as I said, I think I said earlier, you know, that the capabilities of these cameras is beginning to exceed my ability as a photographer by quite a long way. The camera does stick out a wee bit. You can kind of see it here. So I think that's why it makes it essential that you do need to get a case pretty quickly. It does come with a clear bumper case in the box, but you probably also want to be looking at some of these other cases. Now these three cases, I know this case here is for the 8 Pro, but they kind of represent the cases which are available to you through OnePlus. So you've got this one here, which they call a nylon bumper case. It is just a few pence under £28, and to be honest, this is possibly my favourite. Okay, so I used this when I was looking at the 8, and I quite like that. You've then got the carbon effect bumper case, and it's just, as I say, it's 36.95 GB pounds, and it has quite a nice texture to it. You can't really, you don't really feel any of the fibre, as it was, but it has a kind of tactility that means that it's not slippy, and you're not going to be dropping that in a hurry. And then finally, we've got the fan favourite, the sandstone bumper case. So this actually comes in 3 colours. It comes in this glacial green, to match the, I know I've not quite got that right, but to match the back of the phone. You then also have a black sandstone one, and then you've also got this this smoky purple, as they call it, which actually looks quite good as well. I don't have a representation of that, but it looks quite good. So those are your cases. As I say, definitely recommend you get one as soon as you can, because that glass back, whilst it looks lovely, it will be quite fragile, and you do want to give your really quite expensive phone the most love it can take. Yep, let's get rid of those. Okay, so what else is there to say? Oh, charging. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really able to fully test out the wireless charging, because my wireless charger is from about 8 years ago. No, not quite that far back, but it doesn't charge very quickly. But in terms of the wired charging, the warp charging lives up to its expectations. It gives you that 50% boost in about 23 minutes, and we've got the demo of that earlier on in the review video. So that warp charge definitely does what it says on the tin. If you do want the wireless charger to go with the 8 Pro, it'll set you back, if I remember, let's just check, I think it's £69. So you probably need to, yes, it's £69. So if you're buying a 8 Pro, it's probably something you want to factor in. If we just talk briefly as well about Oxygen OS, I mean, it is, you know, how do I say this? OnePlus is a very light touch on Android. It does just enough to bring out the best in Android 10 without becoming, if you like, a problem and getting in the way of the user. So just look at a couple of nice features. We've got customization. We can go in here, we can choose the wallpapers and accent colors. So I know some people prefer a dark theme. So over here we can go dark. I've never been a big fan of dark themes, but this actually works really well. So I could potentially be converted. But if you want to just stick with colorful, you can have colors kind of throughout you can see all the different colors down the side here. Alternatively, you can set it to be whatever your preferred color is, red, blue, whatever. So things like that are pretty good. I like it. Sorry, didn't need to come out that far. Other things, I mean, I don't always necessarily know. This is a new phone. It's got Android 10. It's got 5G. But I mean, there's some nice tricks there to do with dual channel network acceleration, which means that if you have both your Wi-Fi and a 5G SIM in, you can actually take advantage of both channels and get absolutely shed loads of data down. So I'm a fan of Oxygen OS. I think it works really well, and it's just that, as I say, it's just that that little bit of extra without getting in the way. So did I find any downsides of the 8 Pro? Well, the only thing I found was that this extra curved screen, I think you can kind of see it here. Well, it's not extra curved, but this curved screen, it seems to be slightly curved more than the 8. Say things like little pop-ups that would pop up and they'd have the X for the close window. But sometimes it was really hard to actually tap on the little X because they positioned it so far kind of around the edge of the screen, you couldn't actually get a good tap on it. Or if you did, it'd take you a couple of goes to actually hit on that little X. So that could be a bit frustrating. But as I say, it happens relatively rarely, and I'd like to think that reputable websites don't use that very much. It was, as I say, it was mostly within a web browser kind of style thing. I didn't really come across any apps themselves that I had any problems with. I think that mostly wraps this up. I don't really want to labour this too much, but let's just talk a little bit about pricing. So this is the 8 Pro, and the 8 gig RAM, 128 gigabyte storage version is going to set you back a fairly steep £799 GB. And if you want this particular version of the 8 Pro, it's actually going to set you back £899. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want that wireless charger, that's another £69. So really, if you're looking at a OnePlus 8 Pro, fully spec'd, with a wireless charger, it's going to set you back the guts of £1,000. And that's a lot of money in anybody's book. But if you want the most up-to-date phone, and if you want what I might say are some of the best cameras, then it's worth considering. For comparison, the standard OnePlus 8, it starts at $599, so £600 for the 8 gig, 128 gig storage, and it's a little jump of £100 up to the 12 gigs and 256 gigabyte storage. So if you don't want to stretch that full £1,000, you can possibly look at something a little bit cheaper, something close to perhaps half as much, dare I say. I know that's a bit of an unfair advantage in that one's the lower spec versus the higher spec, but that's the reality of it. There's no doubt that this is a lovely phone. Fantastic processor, fantastic screen. The warp charging is what it says. You get that 50% charge in just over 20 minutes, and you probably get a full charge in under an hour. Actually, I was trying out remember I said that there's this intelligence system, so that if it knows that you aren't going to be getting up until 7 o'clock, it won't start charging until 5:30. I was actually up in the night one night and nipped downstairs to see, and sure enough, the charging hadn't started. I think I was down at about 2:30, something like that. So it does begin to learn quite quickly. So, in all honesty, I'll be sorry to see these phones go back to OnePlus. They are both lovely phones. We've got our friend. I'll just bring the. Let's put that down here. Just bring the. So there's the good old OnePlus, the standard OnePlus 8, and you've got the 8 Pro here. Both lovely phones, and I say I'll be very sorry to see them going back to OnePlus after the review. I don't think there's much more to say. So this is Andrew for Geek News Central, signing off for the OnePlus 8 Pro. Thanks very much.